Corporate crash out. Will you cash in or crash out?
Oh man, I love a good interview.
Share with me your best and worst interview experiences.
I really haven't had any interviews go completely wrong. I
Oh,
had one guy interview me once. It was a little awkward in a t-shirt and he had like a Chick-fil-A cup and he was like, "Sorry, I'm on PTO today, but I was really excited about your resume, so I wanted to take your interview." And I thought that was like really endearing. Like it felt really real.
yeah.
Um, but I haven't had any interviews go like extremely bad. Like I've never had someone hit me with a really hard question and be like, "What the fuck?" But I know that happens, so I think I'm just like tunnel vision over here. But I know that I think my least favorite questions are questions where it's like too vague. Like it's like, tell me about a time you worked with a team and what did you do to help the team succeed? It's like, what the fuck do you want me to say?
I really, really hate those. And I think that just shows like an underprepared company, to be honest. Like, I've only had people ask me that when it's just not a great company or it's an HR person that doesn't really know what else to ask me. I think that's like, and then you have to do the what is it, the star stories or whatever, which I hate.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. I just want to talk about actual real things and not just like make up a story to tell you just because you asked me for it. But Claire, it's
Yeah.
interesting that you haven't had any really bad interviews because I definitely have. For an interview, for an internship I actually got, my interviewer, who ended up being my boss, was 15 minutes late to the interview. And I had to like email him and the HR person and be like, "Oh, like, let me know, where are you?" And then he was like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot." And then he was like just asking me questions for like two questions and then asked me what else I have. And then I don't know, worked out. So, you know, but yeah, I've had interviews where they schedule it and nobody shows up. And then I reach back out to the recruiting person, they respond, and then they never respond again. I've had that happen. I've had interviews where it's like a random company like CarMax. Sorry to drop CarMax, but they made me do this HR interview. I did that. Then I did like another interview, and then they wanted me to do a super day for CarMax. And I was like, what? And so I was sitting there for 3 hours doing like cases, and it was just the worst thing ever. Anyways. But yeah, I've had some really bad ones where it's a pretty technical job. I would say some credit card companies, if it's really technical, which sometimes you can't really tell from the job description, but they'll ask you like all these in-depth stats questions. And there were sometimes when I was just like, I don't know. And then, you keep moving on. And some of my friends who are in kind of like a more tech space also have that experience as well. Like if you're in data science or data analytics, you're not going to know everything, and they don't expect you to know everything too. That's the other thing. Like they just want to see what you do know and what interests you have and what kind of areas that you like and know a lot about, and that's kind of what they're assessing for. But I have had that where I was like about to cry because I didn't know anything they were asking me.
Oh my gosh. You know what I actually have done, which is like I think one of the weirder interview-esque experiences I've had is, have you taken the Procter and Gamble assessment?
Yes. Oh, that was awful. Literally.
No,
Sorry.
I was pissed. Everyone was bitching about it, and I was like, I'm gonna go take this test. And then I never even found out if I passed or not because before I got my like score back there, like the position had closed that I applied for.
I don't even know what my score was, but judging by
You either pass or fail, and then if you fail, you can only take it again after another year.
I don't understand the point of it because I've heard some people actually look up how to take it and what kind of person they're looking for, because I think it's part of it's a personality test, right? And also the consulting companies do that too, which kind of annoys me. Oh, this brings me to McKinsey. So maybe they've retired this. I don't know. I honestly don't understand why they put this much effort into it. But 2 years ago, And me and everybody else in the world, I guess, applied to McKinsey, and their rounds before you could interview with them was this case. And the case was you're in a rainforest. No joke. And there's like three. No, I'm not even. This isn't even the worst part. They literally have like a whole intro. I don't know who designed this, but it seemed like an actual video game. You go through the rainforest and you have to find like animals to put together in a biome, and you need like two plants.
Oh yeah, I've done this.
I was like,
oh, that was so fun. That was so much fun. I liked that one.
It was a waste of time. Sorry, it took me hours to do because it was like, oh, which one? This is 76 degrees. This plant needs to be in, and the altitude for this animal is 700 plus, and then you had to do that, and I don't know. It was just.
But yeah, I did take this one where you had to like make a microbiome or some shit, and it was like a simulation. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And they don't tell you if you did well or not. There's no score attributed to it, so you don't know like how to do the next one, which I think is just annoying. I think the issue I have with all of this, I'm starting to realize, is that there's no feedback. Because I think part of me is that I can learn something and I might not know it straight away, but I will make an effort to learn and change what I'm doing in accordance with what you want as a business. And I think the part of interviewing when there's no feedback or cases when there's no feedback is kind of frustrating to me.
No, I get that, because it's like, who the fuck cares if I can figure it out on the first try? Like, you're never going to always figure out your job on the first try. So wouldn't you rather have someone who's going to learn than someone who's just coming in at one level and going to stay stagnant?
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that there's some companies that do recognize that. And for cases, they make it really hard. So that way it's like a test of endurance to see how long you'll keep trying to figure it out more than it is will you get the right answer. Like I've had some of those cases before. But yeah, that's something that always bothered me about some of the consulting ones is that I give them an answer and they say, okay. And then they move on and I'm like, okay, so like, let's have a conversation. What do you think about that? I want to like work with you because clearly in this job, I'm going to have to work with other people. I don't want you to just say, okay, and move on. Like, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions so I can help like tailor that. And I've had some really good cases where people do give me their opinions and we kind of like work together to come to a conclusion. And I think that's a lot better because you can kind of see what someone's personality is like, if they're like, oh, it's my way or the highway, or if they're willing to work with you and compromise, or also kind of that aspect. But anyways, that's my rant.
Yeah. I've never actually done a case interview, but I'm getting kind of tired of like companies having more than like 3 rounds of interviews for entry level jobs. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. It makes sense for some upper level jobs that you might have to do a little more probing. But if you can't figure out if you want a 21-year-old based off of meeting them once or twice, then I have more concerns about that company than anything else.
I hate the ones that I think it's also just that maybe they get so much of volume and so they keep doing, ones like, but I've had ones where I have to do a hire review. Okay. After the hire review, if you pass that, then you get to do a case, and the case is not someone casing you. It's just an online case.
Yeah.
And then so you do that. And then if you pass that, then you get to talk with an HR person. And if you pass the HR person one, then you can talk to another person. Then once you pass that, you can do a super day. And it actually just makes me crazy. But I know investment banking is very, very much like that. Like you have to jump through hoops to be able to get it. And I don't know if that's just to see how committed you are. I'm really not sure. But yeah.
I'm convinced it's all for show. And then once they get there, they just kind of drink slushies and play ping pong all day.
Yeah, I play ping pong a lot at my work.
Actually?
Yeah, they have ping pong tables on every floor, or every other floor.
I remember one of my accounting internships, and like obviously accounting's so based on billable hours, but I would like go get a Coke and all of the consultants would be in the break room just like ripping up the ping pong table, drinking their slushies, and it really made me sad.
What? I thought they have billable hours too. So why are
I
they?
mean, yeah, but it's like way more lax. You know, accountants are uptight.
I feel like for mine, it was the opposite. I did an internship once and it was like real estate evaluation. And it was kind of stressful because they were like 90%, like you have to do all these trainings to be in compliance. But then it was also like 90% of your hours should be billable. And if you're with like below that threshold, then you get an email and say that, you have to really bill. And then I feel bad for billing people if I'm not 100% productive in that hour. And then I just get some.
Katie,
And what?
Katie, welcome to my everyday life. You have
I,
now
I
entered what I do every day.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do well in consulting and accounting just because of that. Not even because of the work or anything. I feel so bad if I bill stuff. And in consulting, this is such a problem because you can only bill so many hours and then you have so much work you have to do. And if you don't get the work done, but you got the hours done, then people get mad at you because now you have to go over hours. But if you got the hours done, if you got the work done but didn't get the hours, then they're like, well, now we're underbilling the client, so you just have to like do something. It's just such a game, and I really am not down.
Yeah, and that's why there's this whole like argument versus fixed fee structures and billable hour structures with consulting and accounting projects. And people will go back and forth on which one will make the most money and which is better. But,
I used to work
you
on those
know,
deals.
like deciding whether you're going to do fixed fees or hourly.
Yeah, and I would have to do like the financing behind it and figure out, how many man hours it would take and okay, are we going to pay this in 6 years? You get like how many days to pay and all that like math financially for those like really big like deals above $60 million. I did that last summer.
Fun.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Hourly or fixed fee?
Honestly, I think this is kind of with the salespeople, and it just, I don't know. It's such a difficult space to work in, but if that's what you want to do, it's like can be really interesting because it's like a little bit of a strategy game when you get to more of a managerial level. But mm, I kind of personally like the hourly one, but this problem is like sometimes you're going to go over hours. So then you have to come back to the client and be like, well, now it's going to cost more money. And then if you do the fixed fee one, but you were planning on this many hours internally and then you need more, both cause problems, but yeah, I honestly
Yeah.
don't. But
I think
for
it's just a
AI,
gamble, honestly.
yeah, I think for a lot of companies are using more AI now. So it's like, well, we're not going to have necessarily billable hours. That's been a big issue because if like AI is doing 20% of the work and we're only doing 80% now, well, if we bill less hours, how are we still going to get paid the same? So, and then you want your hour like billable per ratio to look better compared to the other companies that are also competing for the bid. And then
Yeah.
I don't know, it gets messy. I'm on a tangent, but anyways.
Anyways, we've covered applications. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. So, have you ever gotten a weird interview question? Because I have.
This is what I was saying. Why have I had the most chill ass interviews? Maybe it's just like accounting, but I don't really think I've had a really weird question. Like I feel most of the interviews I've had have just been people genuinely trying to get to know me, what I'm interested in, and like what my experiences were. So,
Right.
Katie, sorry I'm so lax on this topic, but please do share your weird ass interview questions. And if you're listening and you have a weird ass interview question, drop it in the form.
Some of mine have been so stupid and it's clearly like pulled from a list. Companies sometimes what they'll do, the really big ones, is if someone's interviewing you, they just give you a list of all these questions you can ask them and then you pick some. One of mine was if you woke up to 5,000 emails and could only respond to 100 of them, which ones would you choose to respond to? Which is never going to happen in everyday life. And why would I be getting 5,000 emails as an intern? I don't know. But I was just like, yeah, I'd sort them by priority based on what my boss wanted me to work on this week and then answer those accordingly and then get to the rest later in the week. And that's all I had to say. I mean, what else are you supposed to say? I'm going to
I would say, I hope I don't get 5,000 emails because then I'm going to throw my computer out the window.
Maybe I
And
would
then
just
you laugh. And then you laugh, and then they're like, this girl's funny. And then you get the job. Boom.
Yeah, Claire. I've also had ones where they're like, let's say there's a natural disaster in the Atlanta area. How are you going to evacuate everybody? And
The fuck?
I said, well, what kind of disaster? Because if it's a flood versus a fire, it's a little different because you can't really move in the direction of the fire. And they were like, I don't know, just any disaster. And so I said, okay, I would try to figure out public transportation first and shut down anything that's going near the natural disaster. And then also help make sure that all the Google Maps and I don't know, everything else was triangulated correctly so people could get out. But it was actually really interesting. But anyways.
That's weird as fuck, and I'm sorry that you had to endure that. That's like, honestly, though, if I was interviewing someone, I would love to like give a weird question like that and then laugh about it and be like, you don't think I was serious, did you?
But yeah, so, you're going to get some weird questions sometimes, but that's okay. Just ask weird questions back.
Okay, wait, Katie, this brings us like really full circle though about ending an interview. Is like you should ask them questions. I feel like the worst thing you can do is sit across from that table from that person and be like, no, I have no questions.
Yeah, I agree.
I always walk in with like 5 questions I'm going to ask them because and also just like psychologically people like talking about themselves and their company. So it's going to make them like you more.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think when we were talking about that Google Doc, that's one thing we forgot to put on there. But Claire and I do come in with questions ready just in case. And I think it's really great just to have something written down because sometimes I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't have a question. Like, you kind of get to that point. You went through the whole interview. You're kind of fried at the end and you're like, I can't think of anything. Then you can just read it. But I think some good questions I usually ask were, obviously this is where LinkedIn preparation comes in, like make sure you understand their movement through the company. If they have stayed at the company for 10 years, ask them why they've stayed. Was it the culture? Was it the work? Was it the work-life balance? What was it? Or if you want to go more, I guess, in depth, you can ask them what specific projects they're working on right now and how it expanded their skill set. Or sometimes I ask people, list one thing you learned this week because I'm really interested in environments that I consistently can learn in. And so I just want to know like what people are learning. I don't know.
I'm usually a little more chill on that, but I've definitely like stumped some interviewers that like weren't expecting questions, but like I'll also be like really specific, especially if it's for a full-time job. I'll ask very pointed questions about the company. But and it's also like the time to get any clarity on the position that you might not already have from the job listing. And obviously from them asking you questions is not going to give you as much clarity about the role. So I think this is a super important time to ask very role specific questions.
Yeah, I agree. And like kind of, I forget if you said this, but yeah, HR people won't know the role specific questions. So if you do have questions, bring that up in the later interviews, like Claire said.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely thinking like later interview here. Like final interview, final decision vibes. But also like don't take 30 minutes asking them questions because that's excessive. Have 3 to 5 really good questions.
Yeah. So again, yeah, be conscious of their time. That's also a big thing as well. And if you're coming up on time, just be like, hey, I know we're coming up on time. Do you have time for another question? If not, that's okay, or something like that too. But I think one of the other things is for kind of larger companies that do read from an internship question list or interview question list, you can go to Glassdoor and look at the corporate page of the company and then type in what position you're applying for, and then look through the interview questions for that specific job. I've done that before, and a lot of them are pretty accurate, and it just allows you to like prepare a little bit ahead of time, which is really nice. And yeah, I think that I found to be super, super helpful.
100%.
Also, some schools have a portal that you can look through if previous people applied to the internship, and you can see what questions they were asked or how much money they got as well, which might be useful for you guys. I know our school has one, and I've used that multiple times.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing too is for like the sophomores and freshmen and even juniors, if you're struggling to figure out where to apply, you can also ask the career center at your school to send you like a list of where people applied sophomore and junior year and like what internships they accepted. They'll usually have a list, and then you can apply to those as well.
That actually worked really well for me. For my junior year internship, I met with my career advisor in the career center at our school, and she actually recommended a company to me where she knew a partner and was like a really close friend with the partner, and she's like, your guys' values are like so in sync and like you guys would get along really well. And so I ended up applying for that job and saying like she gave me like a reference. So I think that that's a really great resource of like they might know somewhere where you would fit in well. So don't discount asking around where you should apply. Don't just go online blind.
Yeah, I agree. And then this kind of leads me to the last thing I wanted to touch on, is how to answer some of these like weird questions, like what is your biggest weakness? Claire, how would you answer that question?
I've read that you're supposed to answer it and then say how you combat it. Like I would say my biggest weakness is that sometimes I'm a little unorganized. So what I like to do is every morning write down everything that I need to get done in the day and in prioritized order or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was one of the things I struggled with at first, but I think, our school told us you just want to say how you're improving. That's all anyone can ever ask for. No one is asking you to be perfect, but I think it's just showing effort that you're willing to improve, and try different things to better yourself. And that's all that question is really trying to get at. So I just wanted to bring that up too, because I know that's a really common one.
Absolutely. Don't just be like, I'm always late and then like, no.
But yeah, also some places drug test. You all probably know this by now.
I've been so scared of getting drug tested my whole life, and no job has ever drug tested me. And I just want to
drug tested, Claire.
What if someone like I've seen like, okay, I like poppy seed dressing. Like, what if people think I like do meth?
No, I freaked out once because I literally ate a poppy seed muffin right before my drug test and I totally forgot about it. So, but it was fine. I think there's certain levels that, they go underneath. I think it's really only sensitive for, I think, military people. And then they do kind of those tests are more sensitive to it. But I think for just corporate, they have certain levels and thresholds they need to be.
Also, like a lot of very common drugs like flag your test. Like for example, Adderall flags your drug test. So, I've never been drug tested for a job, but I'm just always scared. Like, what if something slipped in there? I didn't know about it. Like, I don't do drugs, but what if
something just slipped in there?
what if a Molly just slipped in there? What if a couple syringes just shot up?
Some MDMA, I don't know.
Like, what if? I'm like, what if I fail?
But yeah, and then you can also just tell like the drug test person or I don't know if you have to tell your company, but the drug test person should just be like, hey, by the way, I'm on this medication. If that's going to interfere with the test, just please write a note so they know. And then I feel like that's pretty common.
I mean, shit. If something came across my desk that one of the interns was doing drugs, like if I got one and I would just giggle, you know? Like, who actually is looking at this stuff?
I don't know, but I think it's probably for health insurance too, is part of it.
Oh,
Full-time job. They're like, yeah, I don't know if they get paid a little bit more, like they get better value out of it because they know they're not like, treating anyone who's on anything hard. But anyways, I think that might also be an issue. I don't know, but yeah. Stay safe. Don't do drugs.
get a job and don't do drugs. That's the moral of today's episode.
At least
So,
quit a month before your drug test.
yeah.
Did I tell you I used to have to get drug tested at school?
Yeah, you've told me
They would
this
cut my
story.
hair.
That's
That
so
was,
mean.
I know. And my sister was on Adderall too, so my mom had to like bring the little prescription pill and then be like, "Look, this is what she's on. I have the prescription." And they'd be like, "Okay," and like take notes, and we'd have to send our hair to the lab. It was kind of excessive, but whatever.
Girl, we wouldn't have a sports team at my school if. Oh, I'm just kidding. Kind of.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you guys for listening so much to this episode. I know it was a little content heavy this time, but yeah, we really appreciate you guys. Please write in with anything you guys have questions on, or if you have any crazy corporate stories, we'd love hearing from you guys. So make sure to write into our listener inbox or just DM our Instagram if that's easier for you guys.
slay. See y'all next time.
See you next time.